Many of us are feeling politically homeless. The Conservatives don't seem to be too interested in conserving anything. Labour seems oblivious to the concerns of working class people, even though it still calls itself Labour. And the Liberal Democrats spent so long trying to reverse the Brexit vote that it's difficult to see how they could ever again be considered liberal or democratic. The Greens don't seem to prioritise green issues anymore, preferring to bang on at every opportunity about the new religion of gender identity. And members of the monster raving loony party aren't actually insane. They just wear silly hats. So nobody's being honest here. After this week's local elections, it might be worth considering the current state of the Labour Party. Do we even have an effective opposition anymore? The party has made some significant gains in London, but not where it really needs to, in the north and in the industrial heartlands that it lost to the Tories in the last general election. After Partygate, plenty of Conservative voters were rightly furious that they'd had their liberties restricted when those who set the rules didn't think they applied to themselves. But now we have Beergate and the revelations that Keir Starmer and his crew ordered curry and drank beer. Perhaps next there's going to be a similar scandal with the Lib Dems, probably involving low-calorie shandies and vegan quiche. We'll have to wait and see. Many people have described Keir Starmer as wooden, perhaps because he only has one facial expression and doesn't have a pulse. But it turns out that this is the very quality that might just save him. People just don't see him as rebellious enough to break the rules deliberately. So, of course, it wasn't a party. Any room with Keir Starmer in it, by definition, cannot be a party. And maybe the beer is really important to maintain the cognitive dissonance required to be in a party called Labour and yet be irredeemably middle class. Maybe if Labour MPs sobered up, they might start saying that they know what a woman is. And we couldn't have that. The culture wars have made the distinctions between right and left all but irrelevant. The Tories claim to be fighting a war on woke, and yet they're pushing through their online safety bill, which not only represents a serious threat to free speech, but even uses the language of the woke by reframing words as being harmful. As for Labour, it has become completely infected with the bourgeois virus of identity politics. And the rot set in a long time ago. Do you remember when Harriet Harman was trundling around the country in the run-up to the 2015 election in her pink battle van in the hope of enticing female voters? Because women, as we all know, are not swayed by political argument or debate, but by bright colours moving very quickly. And if you think that's patronising, do you remember this from Jeremy Corbyn? Only Labour can be trusted to unlock the talent of black, Asian and minority ethnic people. Just imagine all that Ella Fitzgerald, James Baldwin and Martin Luther King might have achieved if only Corbyn had been around to unlock their full potential. Corbyn, you'll remember, he charged white party members an extra £10 a head to hear him speak at an event in Loughborough. He also announced his pronouns before the 2017 election.
Hi, I'm Jeremy Corbyn, leader of the Labour Party. My pronouns are he, him.
And weirdly, this didn't translate to electoral success. Perhaps because voters who are struggling to make ends meet generally aren't interested in old men with beards going out of their way to inform them that they are male. Of course, that's not what Corbyn was doing at all. He was simply making a shallow declaration of fealty to this bourgeois religion of group identity. It's the same reason why Dawn Butler claims that babies are born without a biological sex, and why the Labour-run Camden Council spent over £10,000 on road crossings painted in the trans colours, even though they were facing a £20 million budget shortfall due to the pandemic. The woke movement, in other words, is not left-wing in any meaningful sense. To be left-wing, you have to be concerned, first and foremost, with class politics and economic inequality, not with pronouns and garish rainbow flags and other middle-class obsessions. Poverty is not an identity, but a reality of those for whom the machinery of living has broken down. And this is why social justice activists are usually from posh backgrounds, because if you've never had to struggle for money, it doesn't feel like a priority. The rise of the woke movement and the success of their culture war has effectively sabotaged the class struggle of the traditional left. Identity politics is not progressive. It's a bourgeois fig leaf that often conceals the realities of economic inequality. It's much easier and cheaper for companies to hire diversity experts than to ensure that their staff have increased pay and better working conditions. The woke ideology has never caught on in poorer communities, and it never will, because those who are facing authentic hardship have little patience for the exaggerated, manufactured or imagined grievances of the privileged. And the sooner that Keir Starmer and the Labour Party figure this out, the sooner they'll have a shot at getting back into power.